My name is Tom King. I'm the founder and the CEO of Toolkit.law, and we're lucky to be joined by Bruce Jefferies, one of America's leading experts in drug and paternity testing and testifying. Bruce, I believe you said as we speak to the 80 countries today with English-based legal systems, you've testified in over how many trials?
5,000.
5,000. That's crazy. And you remember every single one of them, right?
I do my best.
Okay. And so you can see also National Screening Center, Bruce, as you know, you are the official testing source behind Toolkit.law. And I believe you test on 6 continents when they go through you, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so as we're looking at the screen right now, we can see how their user web store on Toolkit.law. Oh, did I not share it yet? I thought I did.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay. And then we also have your corporate site right here as well. So whether you go to nationalscreeningcenter.com or centers.com, you can certainly find them at toolkit.law. And most importantly, if you go into our tools section and you go under backgrounder, you can sign up for all the testing that they offer. Bruce, we are going to talk about a fun topic today. We're going to talk about all the crazy stories you have of people trying to cheat for drug and paternity testing. So, first of all, why don't we start out with how do you define substance abuse testing?
How do I define substance abuse testing? It's the test that we're trying to determine on what substances they're using, whether they're street drugs or prescribed drugs. And then we have to verify through our medical review officer whether or not these prescriptions are valid, if they're in their name. We interview the pharmacists to see if they know this particular individual. We ask what time of the day they pick up their medication, if it's on a timely manner, and just see if there's any conversation that the pharmacist can share with us in regards to the individual calling early to trying to refill a prescription. And they give us an idea of the way that people try to circumvent the will as far as trying to get prescriptions early. Like my car was broken into, I lost it. I was pouring my pill into my hand and I actually dumped them all down the sink in the lavatory. And so we come up with a final answer, and it's documented by a medical review officer and sent either to the employer or to the judicial system to back up our findings. And in the last 33 years of being in business, we've never been challenged on any of our end results, whether it be by me doing a medical review as an assistant or by our doctor that is licensed throughout the United States for the past 40 years on his findings. So it's quite an endeavor to participate in when it comes to substance abuse testing.
So obviously the laws are going to be different in the 80 different countries which toolkit.law is geared. But in general, I've got to think that the concepts of appropriate testing and chain of custody exist worldwide.
Well, they have to, in order to make a test valid, whether it be a federal test or a forensic test, you have to start with the chain of custody, which is a 5-part form, or you don't have anything to back up your findings if it gets challenged in the legal system. So therefore, without a chain of custody, there is no test that's going to be run through my office that I can stand behind and protect myself from any litigation. So, yes, the chain of custody is the most important step of the process.
Now, obviously, drug testing comes up not only in the private sector for employees, but obviously in many different areas of law, right? Obviously, criminal law,
Well,
family.
you got civil, you have juvenile, you have probation, parole, you have corporate entities, you have personal tests, you have high schools and junior highs testing their teachers and also students. So there's really not a walk of life that doesn't require testing if there's a reasonable suspicion that a drug, whether it be legal or illegal, is has been taken by a donor and they're under the influence. And so my role is to figure out what they're currently on. And as I mentioned to you earlier, Mr. King, today in a conversation, we'll be implementing a new test coming out around April the 1st of 2025 that's going to revolutionize the drug testing industry. So we may later be asked by you and your company to extrapolate on what's coming, and it's going to change the way drug testing
I know
is done.
we talked about it earlier today, and it's going to affect drug testing worldwide.
Correct.
Worldwide. Okay. Now, when someone's getting, and you forgot family law, you forgot to mention family law.
Well, I mentioned civil, so I encompassed family law in that umbrella along with civil. But yeah, family law is one of our biggest customers for the last 33 years.
So within the legal system in these 80 countries, let's say that someone, first of all, doesn't want to get tested. What are some of the excuses why somebody would say they can't be tested? It might any of them be, are they allergic to needles, or are they allergic to giving samples? Is there any legitimate reason why someone medically should not be permitted to give a sample?
No, the only situation that I've run into why they don't want to take a drug test is because it's against their religion.
Ah, okay. And can I assume that the testing moved forward anyway?
It did not.
It did not.
It
And
did not.
what religion was that they cited?
I believe it was Muslim and Indian, American Indian, and if they do not participate in the court-ordered drug test, then we send a failure to comply notice with an explanation to the judge explaining why a test wasn't performed was due to their religion.
It was that objecting to DNA, saliva swabs? Was it urine? Was it hair? Or was it all the above?
No, it's never DNA. They don't really throw a wall up against that. It's usually number one, hair testing. They don't believe in cutting their hair, even though their hair is, shorter than their shoulders, which means, you're 35 years old, so your hair should be to the floor. So obviously they cut their hair, but the urine, the urine test, they normally give that sample, even though it's against their religion. But there has been multiple cases and times where they still wouldn't give either or.
Okay, what's the craziest thing that's happened when attempting to administer a drug test in a courtroom?
Well, besides being offered a bribe, which we had the individual arrested for commercial bribery, and he was, handcuffed and led away. But we have people that carry apparatuses under their clothes, and when you have a Caucasian male giving a sample, and turns out he has a fake penis, which is black, then we confiscate it, and that's called tampering with a drug test, which is a Class B misdemeanor in the state of Texas, which is an arrestable offense. And has that happened? Absolutely, it has happened. We've had them arrested for falsifying a drug test.
I think you once told me about someone who in corporate testing, it was elaborate testing. they had a bag of urine down on their behind. They wouldn't take off their jacket.
Yes,
Tell us about that one.
CFR Part 40 guidelines state that you are not allowed to take a purse, jacket, or sweater or anything on your person into the bathroom in order to provide a sample. That particular day, which I vividly remember, was a high ranking corporate. Uh, his role was the accountant, the head accountant for a major oil company, and he got selected for random and he appeared at our office. He was wearing a suit. I asked him to remove his jacket and he said no. I said, well, you either remove it or you are going to, I'm having to write you up and send it to your HR director. He subsequently decided he had no choice but to take off his jacket. And when he did, behind him was a mirror in our restroom, and I could see a ball of urine uh, behind his back. And he had a fishing line that went around underneath his armpit and was attached to his button on his shirt, so he could grab that string, and then when he was in the bathroom, he could pull it around and then dump it into his vial for sampling.
Ah,
So
you
once
know,
I
if he put that much effort into sobriety, he'd been a lot better off.
Well, that's the crazy thing about addiction. They just can't give it up. And that's why I'm here, is to catch these individuals so they won't cost their companies or their children any situational problems that might occur in the future. So we take this very serious and we follow all federal guidelines, CFR Part 40.
Have you ever had to inform any of the men who got tested, congratulations, you're pregnant?
I've had one case earlier in my career where the gentleman was not aware we were going to watch him in the restroom provide a sample. So he said, could he step out and check on his wife because she was pregnant? So
Uh-oh.
we let him step out and get on his cell phone, and then he decided, I'm not going to give the test unless I can go in there by myself. And so we said no. So he went to the restroom and he still used the sample. At that point in time, I had in my mind what I was going to do, which was, write down on the remarks section of the chain of custody what transpired, that he did have a fake vial of urine in him, but I wanted to test it. I wanted to test it anyway. So I called the laboratory and I said, would you run a panel to see if he was using his wife's sample? And it did come back positive for he was pregnant. So we followed up with the company and let them know that he used his wife's sample. We knew he was cheating, and we told him, but I still wanted to do it just to see.
But he qualified for maternity leave. That's nice.
Yeah, yeah, really. He didn't have a baby bump or nothing, but yeah,
Okay.
we that's the only time I've actually caught somebody that I know was pregnant.
Now, Bruce, many times national screening centers, I suppose people have come. I had this in a case where the individual was to show up 3 weeks later. When they showed up to be tested, they had shaved every hair off their body.
Yeah, we call those lizards. Uh, we we strip them down. Basically, we look at their head, they're bald. We look at their arms, they're shaved. We look under their armpits, they're shaved. When I talk shaved, I mean there's the only thing there is just like stubble. And at that point in time, we said, "Oh, did you shave your arm?" And yes, I did. I did. I said, "Okay, well, let's look at your leg." I said, "Oh, you shaved your leg too?" Yeah. Well, let's go in the bathroom and look for pubic hair, and there's no pubic there either. And we asked them, so because we need to make a report, and they'll say, yeah, I shaved my whole body because I want to get clean, and I didn't want to be dirty, even though I've been dirty. I did shave my whole body, so I can't give you a hair test. So we check their whole body. We're not bashful, male or female. We check from head to toe.
What's what's the best example? What are ways people cheat that they that okay, so when you had the urine, Doesn't the urine also get tested for a body temperature?
Well, it doesn't get tested for a body temperature. It's up to us because it's going to cool down in transit to the laboratory. But
Sure.
we have thermometers on our cups that measure the body temperature and the urine. And so we do that. And if it doesn't register, then we have a come to Jesus meeting. Like, what do you got around your waist? And I'm a federal collector and trainer and all the credentials in order for me to ask them to drop their trousers or pull up their pants legs, and look, and we'll find it, Or if you look at the cup and it's not reading a temperature, and then you pour it into the vial so you can hold it with your hand, you can feel that it's hot. So we also have a gun that we shoot in the urine to check the temperature. And we've had temperature at 210 degrees, and we tell them, I don't know if you know it, but you're dead. And so, we don't take the sample. We just record it on the chain of custody and go for attempt number two. Attempt number two is now that they screwed up on the first test. Number two is that we have to observe them. So we know they've already used the urine on the first attempt. So we go back for the second attempt visually, and we watch them in person give a sample. And I go, oh, 96 degrees, 97.3. So you are alive.
Oh,
And
it
then,
cooled. It just radically cooled down.
yeah, well, that happens sometimes where they bring it in, on the way to our office. They'll either use a microwave across the street at the corner store, or they'll put it under their armpit, or they'll put on their defroster in their car and try to warm it up. And when they come at our door going, I got to go to the bathroom, I got to go to the bathroom, we slow them down because it's a red flag that they got something that's heated that needs to be cooled. So we stall, and by the time they get in the bathroom, it's below 90 degrees. So it's too cold and we can't take it. And we say, you got a cold sample. And then we start the strip search, and we find baggies, and we find bottles, we find all kinds of apparatuses in order to beat the test. But that's why we've been in business 33 years. You can't beat our test. We look, we watch, we read body language, we watch shoulders, we watch their eye contact, we watch their mannerisms.
Shoulders. What do shoulders have to do with anything?
Because when you're urinating, if you're a man, then you're standing in one position with the cup in the position where it should be. But when they're moving from side to side or moving one shoulder, we know they're moving their hand. We know that something's going somewhere. And so, and they're looking over their left shoulder at us, looking at them. And so we know something's going on. You can't trick the old man. You just can't do it.
Okay, so are there certain ways that women cheat in one way or men cheat in another, or they think they're getting away with, or are there any are there any things that testers need to look out different for women trying to fake or do an inappropriate test versus a man? Of course, when they say they're pregnant, you hope they're pregnant. You hope there's nothing. Have you ever had anything hidden under that baby bump?
Yeah, we've caught. I can't tell you, how many times we've caught women that we make them hold one hand up in the air, and we make them use the other hand to hold the cup, so they can't use the other hand to fish out a container from their underwear or from even inside their body, their cavity. They'll have balloons, and they want to stick the balloon with a straight pin so it'll bust into the cup. And some people don't practice well enough, and when they hit that balloon, it explodes and goes all over the floor. Or they are using a apparatus inside of their cavity, and it falls out into our collection cup. And then they try to explain away what that really is. And female on female, they know what can be put up in there and what needs to be put up in there and what it looks like. And we've seen it all. They put stuff in their bra, and once you're in a closed door environment in the restroom, they try to negotiate. Like, please let me use this because I'll lose my kids, I'll lose my job. I'll get fired from my job. So, and obviously we don't even listen. We just stare at them, and then they'll say, "Can I use your urine? I'll pay you to use your urine." And then
Well,
again,
they're certainly making some assumption about your urine. They're
well, yeah,
assuming that yours is clean.
well, but obviously, yeah, all of my employees take a quarterly drug test. But most of our employees have been here so long, I don't have to worry about that. I know I look at their eyes. Have I had employees that I've had to terminate? Absolutely, because they may show up late because they stayed out too late drinking, and I give them a breath test, and then I terminate them on the spot. So, not everybody's perfect, but if you're going to work for me and this company, you're going to be drug free and alcohol free, period.
Let's talk about blood testing. I believe you call it the PEth test, correct?
The PEth test is one of the best tests for alcohol because it goes back 2 to 4 weeks. The clinical study that's been done on a PEth test, which is a blood test only for alcohol, the biomarkers of alcohol, it goes back 2 to 4 weeks. There's been clinical studies by Smith and Unwilling that all toxicologists in the state of Texas follow. The range of positive alcohol tests is 0 to 20 is either abstinence or very light social drinking. Between 20 to 200 shows that they have partaked in alcohol, but once it crosses 200 nanograms per milliliter, then it's chronic heavy drinking. And so that's a very good test. It's a finger prick that you drop 4 spots of blood on a special chemically treated paper, and then it's shipped to a qualified lab, a licensed lab. That's all I use to determine the levels of their alcohol intake from 2 to 4 weeks. And then I read the report and I can tell the person that requested it what it truly means.
Now, now certainly many an attorney in any of the 80 countries that we focus on at Toolkit.law, they may have said to their client, hey, why don't you go to the pharmacy and go do your own personal test first, right? I want, can you talk to us about these home test kits? And are
Yeah,
there any
you get
ways to cheat?
Well, of course, because it's home test. You don't know if your son's paying for you or your husband's paying for you, even your next door neighbor's paying for you. That's just designed. That was really designed for like the parents checking on their kids.
Or it could have been your husband's girlfriend.
You're right. We've seen those too. But the test that you buy at the uh, pharmacies, I wouldn't suggest doing that because it's so tough to understand. And the catch is they don't want you to understand how to read the test because step two is, well, if you don't understand how to read the test, send it into the laboratory for $49.95 plus shipping. After you've already spent $29.95, now you're at $80 to $85, and you still got to wait a week to get back the answer. And a lot of times these pharmacies say, "Oh, I can't do it because the creatinine level is too low, the specific gravity is out of range, it has an unusual appearance." So it's a catch. I thought about doing it, Mr. King, many years ago, but I saw the legal ramifications of refunding money because, oh, you didn't tell me I got to send it to a laboratory. That's another $49.95, and I just didn't want to get in that arena. I don't need to. I don't have to. I want to do court legal, absolutely perfect with licensed laboratories because you don't know where you're sending these samples to most of the time. Whether there's moms and pops in a strip center that don't even have the machines, and they do a quick test on their end, and then they send it back. A quick test costs about $1.65. It comes from China and it sits on the port in these containers for months on end. So it goes hot, cold, hot, cold. It screws up the whole apparatus, and so I don't trust those as far as I can throw them.
Let's talk about testing internationally. If people come on toolkit.law and through you as our back end testing center, if somebody wants to be tested and they're not in North America, they're in Australia, they're in South Africa, they're in Pakistan. How is the international testing done?
It's the same way we do it in the United States. You go online and you contact us, you give us your zip code, and then we locate the nearest collection site in your area. And then we ship it to, when the collection site receives your sample, they have already the prepaid mailers that go to our certified laboratories. They overnight them, and then you get the result back, 2 to 3 days. It's not hard. The same thing with DNA. Yesterday we have an order from Germany, Nigeria, and uh, gosh, I can't think. Germany, Nigeria, and Japan. We got a Japan order at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we've already contacted the people, and they know where to go. And so they're on their way to the collection site, and we'll have their answer in 2 to 3 days.
So have you ever, as you're doing drug testing, have you ever caught anybody doing drugs during the drug test?
I haven't had anybody during the drug test. Right before they walked in the door, you can smell them. I'll give you a true story. This happened today. We
Today,
drug tested
today.
today.
Okay.
One of my employees went to out of town to drug test the entire city, workers, mayors, policemen, firemen. We run the city's drug test, and we take a breath alcohol machine with us. At 7:45 this morning, he blew a .169 on the breath analyzer, which is twice over the legal limit. And the
I'm sorry. What time was that?
about 7:45 this morning.
And was that before or after they were voting on like the annual budget?
Oh, it's right before they were fixing to, because we were done by about 9 o'clock this morning. And so the HR director, we had to report because we had custody and control of this individual, so we couldn't let him go until we turned him over to the city. So the HR director brought my collector into the office, and they had a sit down. And he said he stayed up till 5:15 this morning drinking with his parents to celebrate his birthday for today. And so they called.
I see. Did they
Yeah,
also test his parents?
they should have, but yeah. So I mean, something like that happens all the time. It's nothing bizarre. It's just they at the office.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you in a minute what maybe some tips for lawyers to try to figure out if their clients are lying. Here's what I always do. I say, because the testing goes back up to about 4 months for hair follicle, correct?
But it depends on where you take it. If you take it off the head, it's 3.9 centimeters, which equal 3 months. If they've shaved their head or the woman's head is too short, it's not an inch and a half. We have to go to the body. So the head's 3 months, the body's 4 to 6 months.
So I always tell my clients, okay, now drug testing goes back 12 months. If you get tested today, will you pass or fail? And if they go, uh,
Yeah.
and they start to do the math, 12 months minus that big old party. That's my unofficial test. Do you have any we have about a minute left. Tips for lawyers on dealing with their clients on these topics?
Well, if they're going to ask for a retainer fee and even want to get involved with these clients, most of the attorneys will send them to us and do a John Doe or Jane Doe test to see if they're telling them the truth on their drug use. If they do come back negative, then the attorney, will decide, hey, this guy is drug free. He'll pay his attorney fees instead of paying his drug dealer. So they will engage with them. But when they send them over and it's a John Doe or Jane Doe, and it comes back positive for mass amounts of drugs, then they decide at that point in time, I don't want to get involved because number one, I probably can't even win the case because you're a meth head or a cocaine addict or a heroin addict, or you're all full of opiates with no prescription. So I don't think I'm going to be interested in taking your case. And I always tell attorneys, and they take me up on it. We get Jane Doe, John Doe's, Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, Batgirl all the time coming here. It doesn't matter what name we use, the lab's going to test it. But that's a good way to find out if your client's telling you the truth.
And for those legal professionals in countries other than America and Canada, when we say John Doe and Jane Doe, that's just terminology that we say for an unidentified male or female person, correct?
Yeah, fictitious names. Now, I'll tell you right now, in Pakistan and the Virgin Islands, places like that, we can't do Jane Does and John Does. They have to look at their ID, so they're gonna have to think of some other way to do it. Which I hadn't figured that one out because nobody does the Jane Does or John Does. But as far as I know, it was our idea. We started it. And so I don't know anybody else that will do it. Not even in the United States. When we have somebody where we had one in Maine the other day that needed to take a test, the judge ordered it, but we couldn't do a John Doe or Jane Doe.
Okay. Well, that concludes our discussion of crazy drug testing stories with Chairman of the Board and CEO of National Screening Centers, Bruce Jefferies. For more information, go to toolkit.law and you will find National Screening Centers on the toolkit.law website. And that concludes this presentation.